Last week I went to see Andrew Lawrence live in London. Lawrence is a comedian who used to be pretty huge on the circuit. He was on Live at the Apollo, Mock the Week and all the standard BBC comedy shows that usually feature sickeningly left-wing so-called comedians who can't help but take easy punches about working class people, Brexit and anti-immigration sentiments. But Lawrence was different. You may remember a few years ago when he snapped and called out these lowlives on Facebook. In his Facebook post, he said that he can't help but notice increasingly a lot of political comedians cracking cheap and easy gags about UKIP to the extent that it's got hack, boring and lazy very quickly. He went on to say that there is a deeply ingrained militant liberal politics at every level of the BBC, despite the fact that it's taxpayer funded and supposed to be neutral. It's a biased organisation and the only sorts of political comedians that are welcome within its corridors are those that reflect its values. And for all those that claim he's wrong about the BBC, how then do they explain the fact that ever since his public condemnation of the cheap shots made at UKIP and his explanation of how he understands why people voted UKIP meant that he never appeared on the BBC ever again? In fact, Lawrence has been totally outcast from the TV comedy community. I was honoured to see him perform in Leicester Square, but what I saw on stage was a man who was keeping his head above the ground, barely, bravely taking on political correctness and saying things that no other comedian would dare say. But I also saw a man who was seriously troubled and damaged by the nasty, mean-spirited, venomous nature of the political left who he has been for years surrounded by. His jokes about being kicked off the TV, doing gigs in back rooms of pubs and never quite filling a room made me really respect the guy actually. He's still making people laugh, he's still following his passion, and he won't kowtow to the backlash he received from his co-workers and from the perpetually offended all over the country, many of whom actually turned up to his gigs only to make a scene and walk out halfway through. But the very fact that simply continuing his career is some form of rebellion tells us we've got a serious problem with a vocal political minority in this country. Now, I've had a similar experience to this. I was kicked out of the University of Liverpool. You can read all about it in my book, A Paradoxical Alliance. Sorry, shameless plug there. But in it you'll read about how I was targeted by politically motivated lecturers who lied about me and ignored threats to hurt and kill me, along with physical intimidation inflicted against me on campus. I remember walking through campus when one man whispered in my ear that he would shoot me if I stepped foot near Toxteth in Liverpool. An older man spat on me shortly afterwards. But despite being a student of politics, the university claimed that my values didn't reflect theirs and that I therefore could no longer study there. This was pretty much unheard of back then, only about 6 years ago actually. But now it's way more common. Student unions, just like they were some decades ago with Labour's militant wing, they're now hell-bent on ensuring that nobody with opposing views dare set foot in their schools. And the lecturers are on their side. The left, whether it's in academia or entertainment, or in fact any area of life really, will do everything they can to ensure that anyone who dares talk about immigration or culture is shunned from normal life. They don't want them to have a career, they don't want them in university, and they don't even want them to have children. Do you remember the story of the couple who had their foster children taken away from them by the local council, just for being members of UKIP? That happened. Or how about the time that the Nobel Prize winner Tim Hunt, an important biochemist from UCL, was forced to step down after cracking a joke about women? Or even Bev, who Rebel Media met last year, the woman who was fired from her work for supporting Anne-Marie Waters. I mean, we live in a democracy. There is no grounds for firing anybody for having a political opinion. Anyone involved in conservative British politics will know what it's like trying to hold down any sort of a job. If you own a business, the left will use their army of online crybabies to leave bad reviews, phone clients and intimidate them into leaving and damaging your reputation forever. If you work for a business, they'll phone your boss and tell them that you're a Nazi. For years before I joined the team at Rebel, the left obsessively attempted to find out A, where I lived, and B, where I worked. Well, they know now my boss is Ezra Levant, so go on, give him a call, tell Ezra I'm a racist. But if the left find out where you live, they might put bricks through your window. They might put notices around your neighbourhood informing your neighbours that they live close to a Nazi. They might even put you on an online map. And while this is all bad enough, that people on the right in Britain have to keep their homes and families secret and pray that they stay out of Antifa's crosshairs when it comes to their job, the real intention of these people seems extremely sinister to me, even more sinister. If their intention is to scare us out of our homes, make us lose business, publicly defame us and get our bosses to fire us, then ultimately, what is it they want us to do? It's not like their intention is to stop people like us from just holding positions of power. They don't want us working at all. So what exactly are we meant to do? Let's play this through, shall we? The left don't want us entertaining people. They don't want us working in an office like Bev. They don't like us representing the voters like Gerard Batten, who got a brick through his window. They don't want us in education unless we're willing to be brainwashed. They don't want us running businesses. So where does that leave us? In council properties? On benefits? Well, we'd struggle. As of April 2016, there are almost 1.2 million households on the council house waiting list, and God knows how many homeless who'll never get a chance to get back on the property ladder or even have somewhere warm to sleep. And the closer you get to London, the worse it gets. And can you imagine, in any utopia run by these Marxist lunatics, that any of us would ever reach the top of that council waiting list? What, with hundreds of thousands of new people arriving in the UK every year? These people would never want people like us living off the state. Why would they want government money funding racists? I'm confident that when they say they want us out of work and out of education, what they really mean is they want us on the streets. And ask yourself this: if Andrew Lawrence found himself homeless, out of work after being shunned by the left-wing comedy community and ignored by a left-wing audience, would a member of Antifa buy him a sandwich or spare him any change? Or would they walk past and spit on him? I think it's time we face up to the reality that many of these people who hound and harass anyone who dares challenge their dogma may even want to see us dead.